We need to honor our native people by recognizing our history and original places. Our leaders made sacrifices for us to live. One way we can honor them is by keeping their original names. Did you know that Minnesota means clear blue water? Mississippi means the father of waters, and Nokomis means grandmother.
Lake Calhoun is my favorite lake, and that's saying something because I love all the lakes, but it's the one that reminds me most that we're where the woods meet the prairie. It's where the sunsets are most spectacular, and I swim in all the lakes, and it has the cleanest water.
Lake Calhoun historically is one of several lakes in Minneapolis that were created by an ancient glacial river that came through west of where the Mississippi now runs. And at one time it was surrounded by marshes, and it wasn't created in the form we know it today until late 19th century when they dredged out the shore so that there was something like the lake we know now.
Lake Calhoun is one of the, if not the most beautiful park in the city of Minneapolis, one of the most beautiful lakes in the state. It's one of the most heavily used lakes in the city. About half of everybody that comes to Minneapolis parks in Minnesota comes to Lake Calhoun. So it's a very, very busy lake, and it's a very beautiful amenity.
I don't know a tremendous amount about the petition other than it exists and that it's exciting to me that there's some grassroots organizing around this issue.
In recent years, there's a petition floating around. People want to change the name from Lake Calhoun to something else. I think the primary driver behind that has been recent events where 7 people were murdered by a white supremacist in a church. And people are connecting the name Calhoun with the South and white supremacy because John C. Calhoun, who the lake is named for, was a Secretary of the Interior. He was a Southerner. He was a Confederate, a slave owner. And people are saying, look, we're changing things. The Confederate flag is coming down in South Carolina. Maybe we should take the name Calhoun off of our lake. Calhoun, by the way, never visited the lake that's named after him.
The petition is an online petition. It's been signed by about 4,300 people when I checked yesterday, which is a large number of people. It would like to see the name changed to something more appropriate.
Well, like a lot of names, I feel the name Lake Calhoun doesn't make any sense. What happened was Minnesota history has been so brief, and the invasion of this land was so rapid that in order to claim it, white people had to come in and quickly give names to everything. And so even things that already had good Dakota names were sometimes replaced by fake Dakota names, such as Minnehaha Falls, which actually means Waterfall Falls, and the falls were never named that. Minnehaha Creek was called Wachpachistina.
Well, I would hope Dakota people should be the ones who named it a long time ago. And either one, as far as I'm concerned, is okay. But I'm partial to birds, so I like the loon. But I just think Dakota people should be involved in that. And certainly Native people ought to be involved in that, because wherever they came from, that maybe there's places there that have been renamed.
To officially change the name of the lake, I now understand, needs a lot of official players, state and city and highway departments, all sorts of people. But I actually believe that this is a great opportunity to have this be a Native-led discussion. That's something that, working with Councilmember Robert Lilligren and I at the city's sesquicentennial, which was a couple years ago, we asked a group of Native leaders to help lead us through that whole conversation and have it be really a practice that emerged out of the community. So much of what for generations and generations was nurtured by Native people was then taken by white people and given white names. And I think this would be a really great opportunity to take one of our most beautiful amenities and have it named after people who nurture it.
But I think the community should really come together and answer that. The indigenous Dakota name of the lake is Bade-Makaska, which I think roughly translates into white shores or white earth lake. And I think personally I think that's a very beautiful name, and I think that if we are serious about having the conversation about the symbolism of the lake, we should also be true to the history and say, you know, there were folks that were living here first, and this lake always has had a name. So my personal preference would be to return it to the indigenous name.
But I think most people agree that the park board should take the lead. There's sort of two decisions here. One is, do we take away the current name? And then the second one is, what do we replace it with? And there could be a different process for each of those. But I think the park board, as the body with responsibility over local waters, is the logical party to make the decision as to whether the name should be taken away. And maybe there should be a public process for deciding what name replaces it.
They came, they claimed, and they renamed. They didn't have no respect for the Native people's names, for a lake, a hill, a mountain, or the land, or a river, or a creek. Had no respect. They would change it.
I would rather have places be named after people who had a positive impact in Minnesota.
People need to sign the petition because, well, why would anyone want to name a lake after a man who said slavery was a good thing? Like, come on now, people, just sign it.